So we have tossed them straight into another draft. If we can get that tossed up on stream. And here we are. I'm going to go right to Hoodie. Since we get to watch this live, Hoodie, what do the bans on Valhalla Bound here tell you?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, and let me just pull up the last draft, that these look awfully similar. And I just pulled it up. Before this they had Balgorn, Barghest, and Scorpion Navy issue. Well, there's the Golem now instead of the Scorpion Navy issue, but otherwise it looks relatively similar. Which begs the question: are they going to go for a similar play here? And I wouldn't be surprised to see something like a British Navy issue come out very early.
Fair. And Blue Melon, on Pikabold, what do those bans tell you? Is there any keys that you've got, or do you think those are just kind of standard run-of-the-mill bans?
So I think for this team, last match they banned the same two battleships, Hype and Armageddon, but then they banned the SNI instead of the Gila. So I think either from their testing or their plays, from the open testing as well, that this team has decided that the Armageddon and the Hype are just something that they don't want to deal with, and that third ban can kind of change. And they just showed the Gila can be quite strong, although it wasn't kind of the win condition of that game. They clearly value this very highly, so they just got rid of an all-around good ship to the points.
And then Hoodie, if you just want to keep talking us through Pikabold's draft here, they went into Hound Ishtar right off the bat, so another bomber coming out very early. What are your thoughts on that?
That's crazy, especially when paired with an Ishtar. So they must have a good plan behind this. They picked it into a Punisher as well, so there's not a lot of information currently going on at all. I guess going into a drone team, at some point you have to start, right? So if you're going Ishtar, it's not necessarily a bad pick at the start. I found the Hound to be, I find it to be an odd choice. Bombers are good against a particular thing, and if that particular thing doesn't get fielded, there's a reasonable chance that you're going to spend a lot of points here that aren't necessarily being used. As we see that British Navy issue coming in, so at least the Hound gets some use here. But it's it's best against battleships. It's not as effective against the British Navy issue and the Harbinger.
Oh man, so Harbinger's.
I think what's interesting from both these drafts is how Pikachu's team, so Pikabold, have both basically times gone for a bomber.
Now, why the Hound over, say, a Nemesis or Purifier? I've always liked the Manticore also because a lot of mids, but Hoodie, why do you think the Hound came out here?
I think damage selection is probably the main reason why you go for a particular bomber. So if you see a lot of kin term like rails, blasters, and stuff like that, then it makes sense to go with a Purifier or a Hound to make sure that you're not running into resist stacking as much. Hound is very flexible as well, because Hound is actually, I believe, 3/3 when it comes to the mid and the low slots, which means you can go both armor and shield tank quite reliably.
It also does a nice damage type. Like, I think explosive, there's not really many ships in the game that don't like, apart from like MRT2, I think it's a pretty all-round good bomber, and it's fast. So for bombers, at least.
We did see a Paladin just come out. Now, Paladins are usually banned, honestly, so I'm super stoked to see one being fielded. They can do newts, they can do hidden RR, they project the entire arena. You can boosh around with the reduced cooldown timer on the MJD. With what looks to be maybe a BC rush coming out from Valhalla Bound, what do you think about this Paladin pick here, Hoodie?
It's interesting. Like, Paladin's a very flexible choice here. It has some weaknesses. It mainly has a low sensor strength, and it of course does only a particular type of damage without too much change. But it's a strong pick. It can project across the field. So if you're going for a rail Brutix Navy and a beam Harbinger, then the Paladin can either fit beams or can just shoot Scorch, and it has a good range to be able to apply to these ships. It is a lot of points, however. So if they find something to mitigate its damage, either tracking disruptors and sit at range, it's counterable, and then it's less effective for the points, basically. But it's flexible enough that you can kind of go into multiple routes, multiple different ships and setups from Valhalla points, or sorry, from Pikabold's perspective.
So Blue Melon, I see that the Crucifier just got banned on Valhalla Bound, and Crucifier, in my mind, is a decent counter to that Paladin. Why do you think they would ban something that I think they kind of want to pick?
So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword here, where yes, they definitely do want to pick this Crucifier because it can shut down the Paladin's ability to kind of project its damage, but at the same time, they have two what I assume are going to be long-range boats and beams and probably rails and maybe pulsing rails on the BNI. So again, Crucifier with that bonus to tracking disruption will be able to shut down that projection that they have. So I kind of see why they did it, but at the same time, I think there were probably better bands to go with here, and I think they're going to struggle at the moment with actually breaking this Paladin with what they have. So I'm hoping these final two picks really round out the draft for them.
What do you think these final two picks should be? They do have 46 points, so they have some points to spend. What would you kind of predict here coming out from Valhalla Bound?
I would probably want a very, very high damage battleship. So again, talking maybe a Vindicator or something to that effect. Maybe a Kronos if you want to save the points. Or a Vargo Tempest Fleet, I'm not really sure, but they need a kind of a win condition ship here in the same way that the blue team have got their win condition ship in the Paladin. They need a frontliner and a really big damage ship. So I think I'm probably going to be completely wrong because this is 5v5s, but I think something of the Vindicator flavor would not be terrible here.
So you're kind of counting on an all-in strategy here with no reps. Like you don't think reps plus a medium damage ship could come out?
I think they have to forego reps here because although they have two links, the amount of damage that's going to come out of the blue team already is going to be a bit too much onto these kind of T1 resisted hulls in the Harbinger and the BNI. Okay, they've gone back. They're going Battlecruiser all in, which is a lot of damage. So hopefully it works.
Fair. And Hoodie, okay, you've just seen Battlecruiser all in. You're the captain of Pikabold. You have 7 points left. I'm assuming a screener, or what do you think?
This has to be either disruption or a screener, right? I didn't want to interrupt, but I did saw the 46 points, and I thought to myself, 2 slots, they're already on Battlecruisers. I wonder if they're going to pick 2 Battlecruisers here. So they are going to go for this play. Crewer, I think that's a really smart choice. Crewer can lock down things to make sure at least that you can deal with the rush coming in. So if the Drake's heavy missile, if the Brutix Navy issue is blaster, you can at least slow some things down. And if they're rail fit, then you can set the Crewer out there to tackle them so you can actually apply. I think it's a smart choice.
All right. And before we actually get into how these guys are going to fit their ships and everything, I want to ask you guys a question. How much stress are these captains under with only 15 minutes now to create an entire archetype and how they want to field it and then try to outthink your opponent? Hoodie, how much stress do you think these captains are under currently?
I think that mostly depends on how much preparation they've done for these particular things. For example, the red team Valhalla Bound, there's so many Battlecruisers in this game and they don't get banned out very often, that you could just decide before you even go into a draft that we're going to use Battlecruisers. And I'm just going to have fits for all Battlecruisers already ready, and I'm going to have 10 different Battlecruisers. I've got all of the fits, and whichever 5 Battlecruisers we have, we're just going to take those fits out of Python, and we're going to fit them up, and they could be ready in a minute. If you don't come in with the particular game plan, and it's not always possible because sometimes your ships simply get banned and stuff doesn't go the way you want it to because stuff gets counterpicked or banned. If you just come out of a match, you don't have these fits saved up, you don't have a game plan already set, then these guys are going to be under a lot of pressure right now to get things done because they have to be on the field in that time limit.
Fair. Now, Blue, I'm going to ask you about this
Yeah.
Paladin. You're a battleship pilot here. Can you tank a Paladin high enough with Tech 2 fits to tank this, or is it just we have to clear damage or I'm dead?
So I don't think a T2 foot Paladin can tank it. Again, the blue team has decided to go linkless here, so they're at a slight disadvantage in terms of links. But what the blue team does have, which I don't think the red team can deal with too easily, is they have a lot of things that can screen. So we know that the Drake, if it wants to do any form of damage, will probably need to be next to the target that it needs to hit. Same for the Brutixes if they're going for blasters, or at least if you want to do the most amount of damage with rails, you probably want to be within 30, 40 kilometers of that target. But they have a Sacrilege, an Ishtar, and a Cruel. And each of these ships, well, at least the Sacrilege and the Ishtar, a lot of hit points, pretty fast, can tackle, and they have an ADC. So if I'm if I'm blue team here, what I'm saying as a Paladin pilot is just make sure only 2 of these ships gets on top of me. If 2 of these ships get on top of me, I'm fine. For the whole 5-10 minutes, doesn't matter. If all 4 get on top of me, well, that's when I might start to struggle. So I think what the blue team here have to do is execute some good screening, get the Sacrilege to lock down one of these ships, get the Ishtar or the Crew to lock down something else, and they'll be A-okay.
Now, do you think Pikabold is going to have some tracking disruptors hidden somewhere, or do you think maybe just RTCs for its own Paladin is a better use of those mid slots?
I don't think you even need to remote track and compute here because battle cruisers aren't hard to hit. And if I was the blue team, I'd be saying these guys want to come at us or they want to be shooting us in the 30-40 kilometer range with long range weapons, which is where the Paladin excels. So it doesn't really mind. What I would probably want on my Ishtar mids or my Sacrilege mids is just tackle mods, because I think this is the way that we win the game. Keep them, lock them down, keep them at bay so they can't do full damage, and just burst through them, with my Paladin, my Hound, my Ishtar, and my Sacrilege damage.
And then Hoodie, if you're the other side, are you going close range guns here, or are you just kind of sitting and projecting? Because we know that BCs can pretty much hit whatever they want from whatever range, or are you just rushing in?
I think both of these options are perfectly viable. You could certainly go blasters. From what my perspective looks, I think there's a very high chance that Paladin isn't going to be anywhere near 0. So going with blasters and coming in at 15 MJDing is an option to get right on top of the Paladin, which circumvents some of the screening and might allow you to blow up the Paladin. Similarly, they could just start at 0 and try to burn in, although they are going to have to deal with an Ishtar and a Sacrilege and a Kruor, which is a reasonably powerful screening wing, which also has assault damage controls, meaning that they can't quickly get rid of them. You're going to be stuck there for a while, losing ships. And Rails is still an option here. Even with Rails, the damage is going to be very high, and crucially, and I think this is a really important part of how this matchup is going to play out, is that Pikabold does not have links powering up these Paladins' reps and its resistances, which might make all the difference between being able to tank these rail and maybe heavy missile damage, or dying to it.
So kind of a noob question. Just a noob question for you, Hoodie. Links. We got some people in this Twitch that are kind of new to the game. Tell us a little bit about the different types of links that you could use and what their benefits are.
Yeah, sure. I think the most obvious choices of links are the shield and armor links, and they both have sort of the same effects. You have resistance bonus, you have an armor amount bonus, and you have a remote repair bonus or even local repair bonus, which makes your repair cycle faster. You combine those three, for example, on a command destroyer, then you've got a very significant boost to your tank on different ships. Then you've got the two odd types of links, which are skirmish and information. And skirmish mainly focuses around increasing the speed on your ship, reducing its signature, and having greater tackle range. And then you have information warfare, which is all about E-war, making your own E-war stronger and making your sensors more resistant to them.
Well, thank you. And then Blue, sorry, I very rudely talked over you. What were you going on there?
Oh no! As I think what's going to be key for the red team here is their mid slots. Do they choose to boost their own kind of tracking with tracking computers and so on, or do they run some kind of disruption themselves? And the same kind of runs for the blue team here, because they do have a few spare mids. So the Hound could be running a few tracking disruptors. Same with the Ishtar, same with the Sacrilege, which might force this red team's hand into not being able to play how they like to play. And as we saw in the last match, this range damage while you burn in can really do a lot of work. And blue team has that in spades from the Paladin, the Ishtar, and the Hound. So it's going to be an interesting one.
Now, primary calls on each side. Blue, start with you. Say you're Valhalla. What are you going for right off the bat here? Are you just all inning while you have full DPS on that Pally? Or whatever screens? What are you doing?
So if I'm Valhalla and I've done a lot of practice, like maybe we wouldn't PL or Hydra and so on, I would try and snap kill the bomber. As soon as it says 0, have everyone lock up the bomber and try and insta kill it, because this represents a lot of E-war and a lot of damage but not a lot of hit points. So that would be my instant primary. If we can kill that, we're already at an advantage. And then I would move in to try and either killing the paladin, or if the sacrilege is kind of coming in to screen, potentially all in the sacrilege. I'm not too familiar with just how strong these ships are nowadays without links, but I think that is also an option for a team with 4 battle cruisers, which is not a small amount of DPS.
And then Hoodie, same question. I know Blue and Hoodie have been opposite sides of them many times over our AT our histories. So Hoodie, if you're on the other side, what are you trying to kill here?
Sorry, whether I'm on Pikabold side, right?
Yes.
Well, it really it makes it a lot easier considering like these Bellicroses are mostly all the same sort of ship. It depends on whether they're coming in or not. If they're coming in, I think you kill what you screen at that point, or you kill what you don't screen so that you can keep the rest away. And then your target choices depend on what's happening in the match. If that's not the case and everything is at range, I would probably go for the thing that does the most damage. And then you're probably looking at the Brutix or Brutix Navy issue, where maybe Brutix is the best target choice because he simply has less tank, because it's not a Navy battle cruiser. But I think they have a flexible choice here. I think they are the ones that need to play this more conservatively. They need to screen. If nothing is happening, then Pikabold is winning essentially.
Fair. I'm just looking over at Twitch, and we've been asked what a screen is. No, it's not a screen door. Blue, will you tell us what screening actually means?
So yeah, to answer the question, screening when we come to the tournament means that you are assigning generally a small tanky ship to stop an enemy ship from getting where it needs to get. So within the tournament, you might find the assault frigates or the kind of punishers in the 5v5 setting, and their sole role, because they are small, cheap, but have a lot of hit points, and are very hard to kill, is to lock down a large or important ship of the enemy team and stop them from achieving what they need to achieve. So in what the drafts that we have right now, the red team, Valhalla, have a Punisher, and this will be their primary screening ship or tackle ship. And for the blue team, like we said, the Sacrilege is a very tanky ship with a scram and a web, and same for the Ishtar, that can hold down these ships and not die immediately. So the general idea is you're providing a layer of protection to your backline or to your more important ships from your enemy.
Thank you. And then while we have a quick minute here, I do want to introduce a good friend. Redline, you here? How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Redline is involved with a very cool show called Trash Talk Tuesday. You want to tell us a little bit about it, Redline, how it started and what you've got kind of going on and upcoming?
For sure, man. So the show itself really just started out as me wanting to bullshit with my friends in Discord on Twitch, and so far it's grown to about 400 or so people in a Discord server just going nuts. It's essentially just a show where we go on, chat about topics of the week and eve, and sometimes, well, most of the time, we trash talk each other because we're all on different sides of the same battles.
Oh, very cool. So you get to like see your buddy over there and try to poke your C to call him primary?
Which buddy?
Oh, just if you're fighting on against somebody you
Oh,
know.
no.
Yeah.
That's
Fair.
after the fact. So it's like, we
Oh,
have a big battle or something like that, and then someone will ping the enemy FC like, "Hey, why'd you feed all those ships, dude?" And then we'll just talk about it.
nice. So I know you've got some upcoming big things going on your show. What exactly is going on, and why should we all come and help you trash talk?
Well, next weekend we are doing CSM debates. I put out an open invitation to every single candidate that's running for CSM, and I've dedicated my entire weekend to hosting them in as many hours as they want of, just talking about the topics that are important to people playing Eve, and that should be important to potential CSM candidates, just to give them a chance to get their opinions heard, and also, prove why they are a candidate that actually deserves someone's vote.
Now, I was looking through the candidate list a little earlier, and it looks like, we're definitely the small gang side of things. It looks like we actually have a ton of representation this year. Did you see that also?
I mean, it looks like there's a lot of representation across the board, to be honest with you. There's a lot of small gang rep. There's a couple wormhole candidates. There's a lot of null set candidates that aren't necessarily like your big six, you'd call them. There's just and there's lots of people that don't belong to any of those blocks that are running and trying to make a difference in the game, which is really cool.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about what the CSM actually do? Like, okay, so that's some letters, but what is it all about?
Sure. So the CSM is basically like a focus group for CCP. They don't necessarily like suggest changes and stuff like that, which is a common confusion. But what they do is they're kind of like a sounding board for things that CCP want to do. They will also bring up things that they want to have focused on. As far as there were some changes that happened within the last year or so throughout the current CSM term that have really impacted the game, whether for good or for bad. We don't really know. It's up to your own opinion, but the CSM has been at a table with CCP talking about these changes and making sure they go through at least relatively smoothly.
Yeah, fair. So literally, they're just a player base that kind of has a direct line to CCP and can kind of help our ideas go there, kind of like maybe senators are in government.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the greatest thing is that when you have all these candidates, so I believe there's 43 of them, and they all represent different things. They all have different things that they want to see done with with the game, different ideas that they have that they want to pitch. So it's important to actually know what the candidates are about, what they want to do, and most of all, it's really important to get out and vote for the candidates. It's really simple. It's just a website that you go to. You put who you want to vote for. Voting starts June 1st, and like I said, the debates are next weekend over at the Trash Talk Tuesday Twitch channel. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity for you to see what the candidates represent, which ones you can get behind, and basically just go vote.
That's actually going to be super, super cool. Now, voting itself, does it happen in game on the website, or how do I actually go and vote?
So once they release the voting, it's essentially you just go onto their voting website. They'll put an announcement out, like a dev blog kind of thing, and then you go on. You put the candidates out in the order of what you want them to go. You've got like 1 through 10 votes, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And then you just submit your ballot. It's just drag and drop. It's super simple stuff.
Nice. Well, man, I know you've been plugging us tons and tons, so I really appreciate you doing that, and then even taking the time to come talk with us here. It's super, super cool seeing how much following all the CSM and how many different channels and how they're actually coming out and representing the player base. And just about anything that you're interested in game, you have somebody that can represent you. So that's super, super cool. So thank you for coming on here.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
All right, and then we will get that channel plugged in there. Every single person, I expect that you're going to have 129 new followers because that's how many people we have in channel. Because very, very cool. Get your votes out and get represented there. So I do want to come back. Looks like the teams are starting to get ready, and I'm going to check us back to Blue and Hoodie. Blue, I want you to cast your vote, and even I want it finalized in the Twitch chat if you would. What side are you taking for the win here?
Taking blue team here.
All right, Blue's actually winning 13-10 on the Twitch vote. Hoodie, what do you think?
I'm going with blue as well, simply based on the fact that Valhalla Bound is flying a setup that requires hyper aggression, and I think I just saw the most passive gameplay from them in the last set. If they do that again, I think they're going to struggle. That's why I'm going to pick blue.
And then we talked about primaries here. Man, have we had anybody boundary, Jero? No boundaries yet. Who is actually leading the Boundary Hall of Fame, Jero?
I do believe it's. Let me check. You.
Hey, okay, fine. Who is second? I need somebody not me to throw shade at,
off
please.
the top of my head, I don't know. I think there's a bunch of people joined first with second, like Jeffrey Krendraven from Barnhouse, Thor from Tuskers. There's a bunch of people on 2. But they're all second. You're first with click, 274.
All right, and then why I got you here, you're not clicking buttons. Man, I just want to go and talk about these logos. These teams have done an awesome job. Do you have a favorite?
It's got to be
Okay.
yours. It's got to be yours. It's got to be
You
yours.
really, you think so?
The Travelling Permit Salesman, guys, if you haven't checked it out, and I should actually have this link ready, eve-5v5s.com. You can see all the team logos on there. There's a lot going on with the Travelling Permit Salesman's logo, just so many things, and it's brilliant.
Fair. Hoodie, do you have a favorite logo that's came in? I know you guys have a pretty dank one also, but do you have a favorite?
I love the new logo that I forgot the name of their team, but that Carl is using the horse with the crab on it. It looks awesome.
The first time I saw the tuskless one, I had a pretty good
That's also good, yeah.
pretty good giggle there. All right, well, our votes have been cast. I am going to toss this back over to Ithaca and Mizier. If you could take us away for our second, see if Pikabold can 2-0 this, or we're going to come out with a 1-1.
All right, thanks, Casper. I'm Ithaca Hawk, and I'm joined here in the booth again by Mizier. And we see all the teams are on grid. The red team have worked in pretty much everything at 0, except that Brutic's Navy issue, who decided he was indeed a special snowflake and he had to be in at 30. Whereas the blue team up sitting pretty much at 50, with the exception of 2 of them who worked in at 40. Mizier, what do you think we're going to see when this match starts?
Well, we have the Ishtar and Sacrilege warping in at 40, which means they're probably going to screen, as the analyst predicted. But the battlecruisers, like you said, they're all, aside from one, at 0, so maybe they may be rushing in.
Yeah, 5 seconds on the countdown, and I expect, like you say, we will see them rushing in imminently. Hopefully this time they don't rush in, rush out, and they actually commit to something. And yep, sure enough, I see lots of arrows as they go straight towards the blue team. The
And
Ishtar is coming.
We also see the Hex moving into screens.
Yeah, so we see the Ishtar coming straight towards them to try and screen as many as possible. The Sacrilege is peeling off a little bit to the side. The blue team doing a bit of a scattering motion here as the damage goes on to the Hound from the drones. That's a lot of damage they need to get down pretty quickly.
Yeah, but it looks like the Hound is receiving repairs from the Paladin.
Yes, the glorious R Paladin, who's also taking damage. A bit of split damage here. So the Hound is taking damage, the Crew is taking damage. Crew, of course, a really great screening ship with its bonus range webs. Hound does a lot of damage, especially to these battle cruisers. So removing that is going to be a big win for them. And they have it down already. The Crew are about to hit Hull as well. This is a good start for the red team.
Yeah, definitely a good start. They managed to kill both freaks, and they still have the Harbinger armor left. And they're already starting to punch into the Paladin, taking heavy damage.
Yeah, at this point, there's very little that can stop the red team getting on top of the Paladin if they want to. They can still be screened by the Sacrilege, they can still be screened a little bit by the Ishtar, but there is still, well, now there's 3 battlecruisers left in the half Octodad comp brought here by the red team. I guess that would be Quad Dad.
Yeah, losing the Harbinger is going to be dangerous for the red team, since they need all the DPS they can to break the Paladin. And it looks like it's actually tanking them, as the Brutix is taking heavy damage.
Yeah, that Brutix is taking a lot of damage very quickly, so I suspect he might be, that's why he came in at range perhaps, because he was a bit of a glass cannon fit to try and punch through reps. He is sitting pretty close to that Paladin though, and the Paladin is repping, but he is losing a little bit of armor every time, so he's going to hit probably Ansel no paste pretty soon, if not already. But if that Brutix goes down soon, then that's a huge bit of damage probably off the field.
Yeah, I think this moment is crucial for the match. Can they kill the Brutix before the Paladin breaks? Because once the Brutix is down, I think the Paladin can tank. And there we see the Brutix going down. This is looking really good.
Yeah, he's bled a little bit into Hull. He's repping. He's super low though in armor, so he doesn't have much buffer at all. He's still going down in Hull. The Brutix Navy, of course, still a very high DPS ship, and he is right on top of that Paladin as well, probably overheating everything he's got. They need to break this Paladin, who is just under half structure. If they can beat this Paladin, then it's game over. Yep, and they've done it. That's the Paladin down, so the Brutix Navy might just stabilize now.
Yeah, with the Paladin down, that's a huge blow to the blue team.
Yeah, it looks like the British Navy has kind of stopped dying. He's still got a little bit of armor left. He's repping a little bit, but the Sacrilege and Ishtar just don't put out anywhere near as much damage as that Paladin did. So he is, if he's dying very slowly now, but it looks like he is going to be able to start repping back up through that armor. Meanwhile, that Sacrilege down to about half armor now as well, as the Drake and the British Navy just pile into him.
Yeah, the Sacrilege is taking heavy damage while the Brutish Navy is just actually looking to recover. You can see it's burning away from the Hex. It looks like the Hex have been screened by the Drake and the Punisher, so they can't catch up on it. They can't apply damage to it.
Yeah, at this point, what he needs to do is exactly what he is doing, which is burn off, rep up his armor as much as possible, just get out of range. The Sacrilege and Ishtar are still just choosing to primary him, even though they're held down by that Drake. Once he's repped up, he can start coming back in. And as I say that, in fact, they've swapped to the Drake, who's now taking damage.
Yeah, it looks like the Ishtar drones are going back again. Or maybe not. It looks like the drones can't figure out what they're going to shoot, so this is a lot of lost DPS.
Yeah, so I see those Berserkers right now just trundling up towards Peter Moonlight, and the British who's now turned around and coming back down as well. So I think perhaps the rate that Drake was going down, if the Ishtar had also been shooting the Drake as well, then they might have been able to kill him. Instead, they kept on this British Navy.
And now they're burning back to the Drake, so this is a lot of lost DPS that can't. They should have focused on one target. And now they lost the Sac and they only have the Ishtar left.
Pretty clever move though by Peter Moonlight and the British Navy to burn away and force those drones to follow him if they wanted to keep on him. And sometimes I think what happened here is the blue team just got a little bit target focused. Like they saw that hull sliver remaining of that British Navy and they thought we need to finish him off. So rather than just accepting that he was burning away and changing target, they just kept on him when, as you say, they should have perhaps swapped to the Drake.
And now we can see that Ishtar alone is actually chipping away the Drake's shield pretty fast.
Yeah, they definitely could have killed that Drake if they swapped to him earlier. Drake doesn't seem to be tanked very heavily against this particular damage that's coming out. Unless he's some sort of meme armor tanked E-War Drake, but since he's not going to die, we will never find out.
Yeah, and with Ishtar down, the match